Hey Artnerds! Today we are taking a look at Spectra AD markers. I started to review these markers a while ago. You can see they are swatched out here, and then I got really burnt out on alcohol marker reviews. I reviewed dozens of alcohol markers and I just got kind of tired of it. So it's been a couple years. I cannot find the markers that I bought a while back. I may have just donated them, but I thought it was a great time to take a look at these markers, especially because things with Copic markers are kind of up in the air right now. You guys can learn more about that by heading over to Nattosoup.blogspot.com and checking out a couple of posts that I will have linked in the cards here and linked in the description below. But let's go ahead and get cracking with our Spectra AD markers. So these were purchased from Carpe Diem Markers. I paid about $1 per marker for them, so they're really inexpensive now. Other places like Plaza sell them for around $3.50, and when they're not on sale, they are a little bit more expensive. They are made by Chartpak, the same company that makes the AD markers. And Chartpak, I believe, is owned by GPC International Inc. And I have a review. It is a very abridged review of the original Chartpak AD markers over at Nattosoup.blogspot.com as part of my massive alcohol marker review section. But we are mostly just going to focus on the Spectra ADs today. So when I unboxed this package from Carpe Diem, I found that this marker here was uncapped. It was completely dried out, and I actually recorded a video where I resuscitate this marker using some common rubbing alcohol. These are not refillable markers, and they do not feature replaceable nibs or chisels, so you may want to keep that in mind. And body-wise, they are very similar to my favorite, the Blick Studio brush markers. In fact, the Blick Studio brush marker is kind of why I'd quit reviewing alcohol markers for a while. I thought the Blick Studio brush marker was so great. I wanted people to focus on this one instead of all the other ones out there. So I just kind of quit reviewing markers for a while. But you can only get Blick Studio brush markers through Blick. You can get Spectra AD through a variety of art supply stores. So if you cannot afford Copics or you cannot find Copics, these might be a great alternative for you. So I'd already swatched out some of the markers. I basically bought everything that was in stock through Carpe Diem. So what I want to do today is I'm going to see if I need to basically double check, because I'm sure I have some duplicates. Like I said, I bought everything Carpe Diem had. I'm going to check my little shipping manifest here, my packing slip, but I need to get some Sharpie on that real quick. And while I'm on that note, I'd like to say that if you enjoy my channel, if you watch my channel and you want to support what I do, subscribe. Don't send me stuff. I've gotten a couple of packages from that I wasn't expecting from people I don't know, and I am a very small YouTube channel, and if I am not expecting your package, it's a little bit weird for me. So if you need to send me something, if you really want to send me something, just let me know first. You can do that through email. But I'm at the point right now where I cannot review any more inexpensive art supplies, so please do not send me inexpensive art supplies without contacting me first. So Spectrum basically has two ways of categorizing their markers. They have a color number at the top, very similar to Blick, and then they have the color name screened on the body. There is also your ACMI AP certification. They are made in China and they are non-toxic. There's a barcode, and then Spectra AD marker. This is ink blue. It's listed in 3 languages. This side has the brush, this side has the chisel. It does have a collar, like Copic markers have a collar, but like the Blick Studio brush markers, the color is the same color as the body, and they instead opt to have some body screening that indicates which end is the brush and which end is the chisel. I have here a quick little comparative lineup of some of my favorite alcohol markers: Blick Studio, Copic, Shinhan Twin Touch, and the Spectra AD. These 3 markers, the Blick Studio Touch, Copic Sketch, Copic Chow, Copic Original, and Shinhan Twin Touch, both the brush one and the bullet nib one. These are all refillable, and Blick is even working on replaceable nibs for their markers, so that's going to be coming out in the near future. The Spectra AD are not refillable and they do not have replaceable nibs, but you can remove the chisel nib if you want. I have not yet tried with the brush nib. People have commented in the past that seeing my markers uncapped like this makes them uncomfortable. I do apologize, but it is for demonstration purposes. Since I review these products on this channel, I see it as a service that I offer for you guys, but I would not recommend leaving your markers uncapped like this for any length of time. Alcohol evaporates very quickly. So all of these markers feature a foam rubber nib. The nibs here for the brush tips on the Spectra AD and the Blick Studio are almost indistinguishable, as are the chisels. And I found that the Blick Studio performs a lot like a Copic sketch marker. So I would say that these three are fairly comparable, but that's just at a glance. The Shinhan Twin Touch does have a larger, slightly different body. It does have more ink. And the Shinhan Twin Touch, the Copic Sketch, and the Blick Studio have a color family. It can vary by brand as well as the color name. I apologize for my nails. I've been working with alcohol inks this morning. The back of the Shinhan Twin Touch has a sticker with a barcode. It's the brush tip color 0, made in Korea. I'm going to go ahead and recap this one. Sketch has a barcode on it. I believe it does not have the color screened on the body. The color is screened on the top here. And Blick, let's see, doesn't have it. Yes, Blick has the barcode. It does have the color name screened on it. It says Blick Art Materials, dickblick.com. They are made in China. Cover that for you guys. And then finally our Spectra AD marker, ink blue, blue encre, azul tinta. It has a brush indication, a chisel indication. It has screen barcode. It has some non-toxicity info. And it is very, very similar to the Blick Studio brush marker. It really would not surprise me if they were manufactured in the same factory or using the same molds. This is an original Chartpak AD marker. You can still buy these. They say they are non-toxic, but they contain xylene, I believe, which is toxic. If you're using these, you're going to want to work in a very ventilated area. They are made by Chartpak and they are made in the US. They have several different tips available, but they only have one end. And it has this really, really nice chisel tip that's very juicy. And the scent for these is super duper strong. Now it has a color name, a color number, but nothing on the top. So these utilize a different alcohol. They utilize a xylene-based alcohol. These utilize, at my best guess, an ethanol-based alcohol, which is pretty common for alcohol markers. I may have mentioned in the past that I compare most of my alcohol markers to Copic. The only reason I compare markers to Copic is because it provides kind of a baseline standard. If you've never used a Copic before, you know somebody who has, and I have a lot of videos where there's that sort of cross comparison. So Copic is generally, sorry about that, my baseline standard of comparison, but I do think the closest comparable marker is going to be the Blick Studio brush marker, and you guys can check out my videos on this marker as well as my reviews over at nattosoup.blogspot.com. So I want to do a little bit of compatibility testing. I have a piece of cardstock here. The brush is fairly soft, a little bit mushy, fairly juicy when new, good ink flow down. The chisel nib is able to make a variety of line marks or do a variety of line weights. The nib is fairly sharp, and as I mentioned, it is foam rubber. The reason foam rubber is good is because when you mash down your marker, it is going to spring back into shape and it's going to be less prone to fraying. So I have picked three colors, 065, 073, 074. We're gonna quickly do a little bit of blending with these. if you're looking for more alcohol marker reviews and tutorials, I highly recommend you hit that subscribe button. You click that bell notification. It's going to let you know when I have more updates. So they seem reasonably blendable, with the lighter colors really pushing back on the darker colors. And I don't believe I purchased a colorless blender with this set because I have so many colorless blenders around. So I will do some rainbow interswatching, but the first thing I really want to do is I want to do some compatibility tests. So I am laying down some fields of color using ink blue. We're going to start with, let's start with the Chartpak Ad Pro blender. And if you don't know how Colorless Blender works, it doesn't actually bring the color into the new area. It instead pushes it to the back of the paper. And then we're going to try our Blick Studio blender. And already I can see that the xylene based blender blends a little bit differently from the Blick Studio blender. Now we have a Copic colorless blender. And I think doing these kind of compatibility tests is really important because I use various brands of markers together. Then we have a Shinhan Twin Touch. And for me, it's good to know what will work with what. And then we're going to put down some more color. And we're going to drip some rubbing alcohol into it to see how reactive it is. And this is just plain 99% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. I just kind of want to demonstrate the Chartpak AD markers for you guys. They are much larger. They have a marker body. I find that they're more prone to blending or bleeding out of the area, and these suckers give me bad headaches. So I don't really use them, but I do like to have them around to demonstrate for you guys. And these are kind of a predecessor for what we commonly think of as alcohol markers. If you check out the Copic site, there's like a Q&A section. It asks who was the first alcohol marker, and they give some really shady runaround answers. But Chartpak and Magic Marker come pretty close. And they were very popular with illustrators and designers, especially product designers, before computers were really a common use product. So they're great for like mock-ups, and they do come in a fairly wide range of colors, and you can find them at most art stores still. Again, there's some fume issues, some toxicity issues. The little bitty bit I've been using these markers, I'm already getting a bit of a headache. So even though the Spectra AD markers have similar branding, they're more like alcohol markers that you guys might be familiar with. But as you guys can see, you can do color layering and color blending. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to kind of take stock of the markers that I have, and I want to do a color rainbow for you guys. Okay, there are a couple of things I noticed about these markers. One, they are really whiffy. They've definitely got a scent. I don't know if I'm like pre-sensitive, just messing with the AD markers has already kind of set me off, but it definitely smells like alcohol markers in here, and I'm getting a little bit lightheaded, and that is not a complaint you guys normally hear from me. So these definitely are a little bit pungent. You're going to want to work with these in a very well ventilated area. Two, a lot of these caps were loose. I kind of was upset in the video where I resuscitated my warm gray 70, which actually worked quite well after resuscitation, so I'm proud of that. You guys are gonna have to check out that video. I was a little bit annoyed at Carpe Diem for how they packed the markers, but honestly, I would say more than 50% of the markers, particularly the chisel tip end of the markers, the cap was loose. Maybe that's why these things are on sale. Maybe that's why people aren't enjoying them, is because they're getting a lot of dry markers. I don't know, but that's definitely something you're going to want to check on a couple of different levels. Well, three levels. Check as a consumer if you're buying them in stores that you're not getting any with loose caps in the store. Check in the store to make sure they work. At a store level, check when you get your shipment and when you ship them out to people to make sure there are no loose caps. And then Chartpak should be checking these markers as well to make sure that they're not sending out markers with loose caps or with defects. So that's definitely something you're going to want to consider, especially if you're paying full price for these markers. Now, all markers but the 70 that I resuscitated, they all seem to be in decent working order. None of them are overly dry. Because these were on sale, we don't necessarily have any idea how long these particular markers have been sitting in a warehouse. So that's another thing you're going to want to consider. So we have 31 colors here, more if I can dig up the colors I purchased earlier. I'm going to start sorting these into a rainbow of colors, and we're going to do a blended rainbow. I removed all of the grays from this selection just because I thought it would be easier to do a rainbow swatch first and then maybe do our gray blending. So I am starting with antique white, and I'm going to do this in time lapse and get back to you guys with my thoughts. So my thoughts so far are these things are built kind of shoddy. They're definitely built shoddier than the Blick Studio brush markers, which might be another reason why we might start seeing fewer of these on the market. I did not buy a blending set. I bought what Carpe Diem had left over, like literally just one of each, because they were $1 a piece. I spent 31 bucks plus shipping on these. So at that price, at $1 each, they're great, especially for open stock markers, because you don't see alcohol markers that are decently good at $1 a piece open stock. You have to buy them in a big set. And then, you know, the fact that these are brush markers and the brush itself is not bad also kind of elevates it a little bit. Would I pay $3.50? No. I would buy Blick Studio brush markers. Would I pay $2.50? No. I would still buy the Blick Studio brush markers even though they're more expensive, because I can get refills, I can replace the brush and the chisel, and they're just sturdier built. These things are really shoddy feeling. So that was all the rainbow colors. I'm gonna do my gray tones next. Now, warm grays are great because they are really, really versatile. You can do a lot with just monochromatic colors, and this is usually what I recommend to people who are looking to start a Copic collection. Is I recommend they start with warm grays and then start adding colors, because you can kind of fledge it out as like spot color illustration. So we're going to go ahead and swatch and blend our warm grays, and then we're going to do our basic grays. Okay, so that is basically my unboxing swatch for Chartpak Spectra AD markers. I am going to do a field test with these markers as well, so I want you guys to keep an eye on this channel for that video. But I want to talk about what we've seen, and I want to talk about what we can expect and what you can expect from Spectra AD markers. One, they may be kind of difficult to find. They were out and about a few years ago, but I didn't really hear anybody talk about them. And even though I'd purchased some, I never felt any pressing need to review them myself. I never received any requests to review them either, which is unusual because there was a time where any bad, inexpensive alcohol marker that floated down the internet jet stream, somebody would ask me to take a look at it. So it's a little surprising that nobody asked me to review Spectra AD. The fact that they are moving at $1 a piece on Carpe Diem markers is a little bit concerning. Plaza still has them for around $3, and they still have the display out. So if you fall in love with these markers, they may break your heart because they may be discontinued shortly. However, I think they're very comparable to the Blick Studio markers, which don't seem to be going anywhere. These could be a great way to start your alcohol marker journey, to pick up the colors you want. To pick up the colors you want open stock. So my camera actually died right then and there, and I did a little digging and I found my other Spectra AD markers. So what I'm going to do before the next video is I'm going to cull any duplicates, add them to my giveaway pile, because I have started a giveaway pile, and I think we're going to be on a really good footing for that, because when I first started this collection, I bought a lot of skin tones. So now we have a really nice range of colors to do our field test with. Now, I said earlier in the video, I feel like their construction is shoddy. I will stand by that, but they blend decently well. They're not bad markers. In fact, I'm going to blend some of the skin tones for you guys since we blended everything else. Why not? And we'll see, because for me, honestly, the ones that really, really matter are going to be the skin tones. If your skin tones aren't good, there's not much else you Okay, so a caveat. These Spectra ADs, the ones I just swatched, they're about 2 to 3 years old. They have not been touched other than the initial swatches here, and you can see 84 kind of bled out a little bit over time. I found out that I had a colorless blender, and I don't think I've ever used it. I think it's just sat in a carrying case in a climate-controlled room away from sunlight. I have an alcohol marker drawer. Look how loose that cap is. I'm not applying any pressure to it. It is super loose. It is dried out over time. So whatever is going on in these caps, they are not nearly as nice as the caps for, almost any of the alcohol markers that, when I recommend markers, the markers that I recommend. So I can't actually test their colorless blender, but what I can do is I can fill it with either Blick or with Copic. And since Blick is cheaper, I'll fill it with Blick. And you guys will get a little preview of my last revival video, I guess is what we'll call it. So normally I would use Copic tweezers. Ah, it does not want to come out by hand. Let's try the Copic tweezers. Oh, it doesn't want to come out, period. Ah! I mean, it's not the end of the world if I can't use this blender. I might as well use the Blick blender, in fact. But I am very, very stubborn. I'm gonna want... Okay, I'm getting it. I don't know if I'm getting it on camera, but it's slowly coming out. I know that's not what you guys paid the good money to see. So I'll talk about these markers while we do it. Definitely some quality control. What? Well, if you are ever interested in what's inside an alcohol marker, now you know. In fact, I will move the camera so you can see it better. Y'all saw that. It just came apart in my hands. So we have, as I've told you guys before, a wick. And it's like the wick you would see. In fact, we could just have this like completely full of something and it would evaporate super quick. So I'm going to push that back in. We're going to reconstitute this. But we have a wick. It is a compressed fiber wick, just like what you would see in Crayolas. If you disembowel a Crayola, this is what you're going to see. And this is Blick Studio Marker Refill. Let's see if it says what's in it. It does not. What I'm going to do, what I'd love to do, is I wish I had a container I could do this in, but all my containers are full of other marker resuscitations. And you can see the color change in the wick as it soaks in. I'm just going to resaturate this wick with blender. Not the same blender, so we're not going to be able to really talk about whether or not their brand of blender works well. But this is actually resuscitating quite nicely. I have never had an alcohol marker split like that without like actively trying to get an alcohol marker to split like that. In fact, I don't think I've ever split an alcohol marker. And it goes from hard, like it's dry, hard, to soft. Now this had color in it. I might use rubbing alcohol to soften it up and to get the dry dye out so that, you know, we get kind of a consistent color like I did with the warm gray 70 in another video. Why am I doing so much marker repair work? Maybe I've been inspired by the notion of the Copic clinic. They have that in Japan, of course. They have a Copic clinic where you bring in your markers, and it's like the Cabbage Patch clinic for some of us when we were kiddos. They will resuscitate your Copics. Okay, so we're dripping. Who's surprised by that? No one's surprised by that. But it is nice and sassy. I mean, saturated. We're gonna reassemble that. And then we're gonna just kind of dip. Good thing I use a non-porous craft sheet. They look terrible on camera. People have complained about how ugly my work surface is, but they are great. They're amazing for anything with alcohol markers, really. And we'll drip drop just to kind of resuscitate. Okay, and then we'll just kind of test it out. I think that'll work. I'll cap this. We'll do a couple more drops on the brush so that it kind of soaks in to where it wicks into the marker itself. I like how I can be both so cheap and then so bougie. Because in most of my marker reviews, I would just be like, now! And throw it away. But this is, you know, it's a combination of my fault and their fault. Okay, that seems to be working a lot better. Awesome. And I'll just kind of let it sit in the horizontal position, reconstitute. So that was really exciting, y'all. That's a reason to watch, a reason to subscribe. You never really know what's going to happen, especially with alcohol markers. Get a little bit of excitement in there. Feel your heart racing. So I will see you guys, when it comes to Chartpak markers, I will see you guys again in my field test video. I hope you guys are looking forward to it, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. I'm going to go clean up and cull my marker collection, get this video edited, and I'll see you guys again really soon. The takeaway for Spectra AD markers is these things are built super shoddy. It would not surprise me if your marker collection, if it was made up primarily of these, if your markers died, even if you weren't using them, and even if they were stored fairly well. So if you are going to use them, keep in mind that they will not last forever. Like most art supplies, they do have a shelf life. They could be great though if you're a beginner artist and you see them at that $1 price point. They could be great to augment your fine color collection, your other AliExpress markers, your Ohuhu, your Arteza, your Artex marker collection. Maybe you want to do some different skin tones. I'm not super impressed by their skin tone range. We go from fluorescent to peachy white. We're going to see what we can do for the field test though. I think it's like a 91 color range, and your access to certain colors may vary. Certain stores are going to have them at full price. Certain stores are looking to liquidate them, so your mileage may vary. But I'm going to put links where you can find these markers down in the description below. I do want to point out, as with all of my videos, prices do change, availability may vary, your access may differ from mine, your experiences may differ from mine. So I'm sharing what I know and what I've got, but it's a your mileage may vary situation. So I will see you guys in the field test video. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and it'll be exciting to see how well this blender marker reconstitutes. Bye guys!